Microtrending.
Welcome back. I'm Gabrielle, and you are listening to Microtrending, the podcast for anything that is having a moment, for better or for worse. And whether you deem these for better or for worse, we will later be digging into the trends of chic versus not chic and propaganda that you are either falling for or not falling for. Truly the dichotomy of the human spirit, just in a few different forms. I am recording this on a Wednesday for Friday, and there are a couple weeks coming up where I am going to do my best to record ahead of time since I have some things happening during the week, including kind of a local staycation, which I am number one excited for since it's with family, but number two, perhaps some exciting content. I hate that I just used that word. Perhaps some exciting footage to go along with it, but that is coming up in a few weeks. I also have some other travel planned for June, so I'm going to do something that I am not that great at doing, and that is like planning far in advance. So we're just going to see, but for now, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. My last apology of this mini apology tour is that I do have a bit of a cold. So if I sound extra nasally or extra vocal fry, extra annoying, you know why. Anyway, before we get into the chic versus not chic or the propaganda trend, I did want to share something that I was tagged in that I just thought was kind of funny. It also made me reflect on the fact that I don't usually talk about like the thought behind the content I put out or like how I started posting the type of content that I do. It made me think about how I'm like perceived in a way. Anyway, here it is. Saltlacroix is an interesting account. Once you get past the voice and understand the character she's playing, she knows what she's talking about. Thank you, I guess. No, I'm not trying to read too much into this because ultimately, again, the video has been shared. However, I do think this is an instance where I have to wonder if someone would say the same thing about a man of any orientation posting similar content. Like first commenting on like the voice and the character. It's possible. I don't want to say like for sure that someone would comment differently were I not a woman. But it's just it's a kind of a backhanded compliment, I think. Once you get past the voice and understand the character, um I do know what I'm talking about. I'm just presenting it in what I hope is an entertaining way. And there are things I could be wrong about too. I'm not right about everything. But I do want to reiterate that I'm not upset by this. I just think it's really funny because you don't think when you're putting content out there, you don't necessarily fully grasp how you're perceived and like how much people are getting it. So I do want to give this person credit that it is a put on voice, it is a character, and there is like actual concerted thought put behind everything that I'm putting out there. So I guess kudos for picking up on that, but I don't think that those things are necessarily mutually exclusive, being a woman who knows what she's talking about and then also having, presenting it in a humorous way. And in terms of the voice in general, especially for all the like aesthetic satire videos, without getting into too much detail, there is a reason why I talk like that. It's actually like one of the most common comments that I get from men and women alike. Like, why are you talking like that? And like, I'm not looking for people to like get it, quote unquote, but it does show me that you have not maybe like seen the source material, and that's okay. But that like very monotone affect was from parodying like two specific creators that were like routinely posting like trend predictions and like mood board type stuff. If you want to be an it girl, these are the items you need to buy. And those creators and that content still exists. I think some of them spawned like 1,000 knockoffs, but in like 2022, 2023, it was like trend predictions for 2024. Here's everything you need to get the look. Like that sort of voice, that is kind of where it started. And if you're a man watching these, I can completely understand that you might have not seen that source content on your For You page. So the reference point is just me coming across her page sounding extremely flat and annoying, which is a risk you take when you're putting anything out there. Switching gears, we need to talk about the concept of chicness, by which I mean I do not want to discuss the concept of chicness. I think to do so is perhaps the least chic thing you could do. But enough on that. If you didn't see, there are a lot of, it seems to be majority MAGA adjacent creators. I could be wrong. They just happen to look that way. But a lot of girlies on TikTok specifically sharing their list of things that either are chic or are not chic. And there was one creator in particular, I think it was Tara Colleen or something, two first names. I had never seen this woman before in my life. I think she's kind of like a mommy lifestyle fashion creator. And she was getting properly roasted, I guess, for saying that certain things were unchic, like tattoos, and other things, all while not particularly looking like herself, like the epitome of chicness. And I think people felt comfortable making that judgment because of how incredibly judgmental her list was, and just antiquated, and definitely felt, looked, smelled, tasted a little white Christian nationalist. That was kind of the flavor of her list and the delivery. Anyway, I already kind of made fun of it with some creative liberties in a video, but I just find this whole trend so funny because a lot of these folks, I can guarantee you, did not know how to spell chic before seeing the original videos. And I've seen, in my lifetime, I have seen many an unchic spelling of chic, including chick, CHICK. If you are spelling the word chic with a K anywhere in the name, you are probably still upset that the Dixie Chicks had to drop the Dixie. That might be you. And I already thought this trend, microtrend of sorts, had already expired, but then I'm seeing other accounts like, girly pop news outlets unironically talking about having a chic summer. This is just what I've seen. And we already did this. We did the Sophia Richie old money dog whistle bullshit stuff. We already did the oysters, espresso martini, Aperol spritz, one bite of chocolate cake, cosplaying Sex in the City stuff. This has been happening for a few years now. It just keeps getting like repackaged, and it's all about proximity to whiteness as part of the whole Operation Beige situation. This is just the working 20-something upwardly mobile girly pop version of that. But like I said, we've been here before. And if chic summer is going to be like the replacement for brat summer, we're definitely in trouble. If that word has not lost meaning already, it will not have any linguistic significance by September. Anyway, I think that's all I want to say about chic versus not chic, because I think it's just an insane debate to be having on the internet specifically. But besides things that are chic or not chic, you have probably, I would be shocked if you haven't seen these, probably seen the propaganda I'm not falling for, or propaganda I won't fall for, and then the propaganda I am falling for, or propaganda I have already fallen for trend. There are like a couple different variations on it where it's just that title and then your list of things. Many of them are copy paste, which, when you think about the nature of the trend, is maybe the funniest thing that could possibly happen. But I do have some of my own and a lot of yours that you submitted. Thank you so much to share here today for both categories. But I do think it is worth first reflecting a little bit on this micro trend that, like, it seems like a moment of self-awareness and self-reflection, and I think it could be for some people, but like realistically, not for all. And I think by far the funniest part out of all of this is that by participating in this trend, by posting one or both of them, you have fallen. It's not necessarily propaganda, but you have succumbed to the peer pressure of this trend. You've hopped on the train to Validation City along with the rest of us. And I'm not saying it's bad to partake in social media trends in general, or discourse about it. I am complicit, and I do this stuff all the time. But I think the important thing to note is how easily we are convinced to do something. Like the propaganda that we fell for, that you are falling for, is participating in a trend like this in exchange for likes. And again, I'm not above this at all. This is just, it's part of being self-aware on the internet. And it is also both hilarious and a little sad that some of the people posting these are influencers that are like pretty deep down in the Operation Beige sinkhole, making money off a lot of the things that they are purporting to not be falling for. And then they post these lists masquerading as being relatable. And again, there might be some truth to the things that they're posting, but like that is just such small potatoes compared to the broader propaganda that they are responsible for normalizing and for bringing to your For You pages. Like they might say that they're against la boo-boos because they think that they're ugly or whatever, and then they have 20 equally ugly things in their Amazon storefront. That's just the reality. I also need to point out that I feel like the word propaganda is being used pretty generously here, like the word chic. These are certain words that we like attach that get really just like bastardized and just like stomped into oblivion with these trends, and propaganda is one of them right now being used pretty loosely, but we are at least using it, period, and learning how to spell it, even though it still gets spelled wrong lots of times. The other thing that's maybe more important just to touch on super quick here is that we're talking about not falling for specific things like oat milk, which I understand, but there is so much insidious actual propaganda out there that is marginally more important than oat milk that we are falling for actively and all the time. And it's the stuff that gets suppressed sometimes, but it is also the stuff that has cost us elections. And it's coming from both sides. But there's a lot of stuff that we could probably stand to wake up to that's not oat milk or not. And this is why we need to protect public schools and higher education, yada yada. A really easy example, if you'll stay with me here, is that there is in fact a genocide happening, but there's a lot of propaganda out there that would convince you otherwise. Drinking oat milk or not is a choice. A lot of other things are being forced down our throat. They're not on the same playing field.
Microtrending.
On a lighter note, I do have some of my own propaganda I am not falling for, and propaganda I am falling for. And I try to keep these lists super short because I could go on for 4 hours each. But let's start with propaganda I'm not falling for. First and foremost is obviously AI, but I'm not even going to get into that one because your submissions also touch on that. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. The first piece of propaganda I am not falling for is that the new wave of coffee shops, specifically the ones that are popping up here in LA, when it comes to coffee, I am not buying that they are any better at all than Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf, the Coffee Bean, or even Alfred. Again, specifically here in LA. We don't talk about Starbucks anymore. She's chopped. But these coffee places all look like they were built in fucking Minecraft. They're concrete or wooden blocks, and they are not coffee places. They are matcha places. They are not coffee shops, but they are moving into coffee shop real estate. And I am not anti matcha at all. And I think that matcha and coffee belong on the same menu. They can and should coexist. But coffee is not at the heart of these new businesses that'll say like whatever coffee, and it's matcha that you really care about. These are DL matcha spots. And a lot of them are trying to like outdo each other with the like flavors and the cream tops and like syrups and stuff. And so you get these insane lines of people just trying to get their like $10 drinks to, of course, enjoy them, but also take photos with them, take photos of them. And I sound like such an old curmudgeon complaining about this right now, I know, but like it really feels like 2014 to 2016 or 2018 again in terms of like Instagram culture, which TikTok is now a part of. And I don't think there's anything wrong with taking a picture of a beverage that you enjoy, but the heart and soul of like the coffee shop and a delicious coffee beverage is feels like a thing of the past, at least right now. And if I can like wax nostalgic and poetic for just a second here, I need you to understand that I remember so clearly the first time I saw an iced coffee. It was probably like a latte or an iced mocha. Those are like the colors that I remember in my mind. Um, but I remember it as clearly as like a SpongeBob episode with the same vibrancy. And I remember seeing it, I remember like looking up and a woman was carrying it. And I asked my mom, "What is that? And can I get one, please?" And she was like, "No, I'm sorry. That's for grown-ups. That's for adults." And I just knew that we were destined to be together for the rest of our lives. Coffee, iced coffee is very chic to me. Okay? It is a very ballerina cappuccina. Anyway, I am not arguing that these fake coffee places, these matcha spots shouldn't exist because I do respect innovation. But the propaganda I'm not falling for, to bring it back to our point here, is that I am not believing that an $8 cup of sour beige water, because that is often what the cold brew is, available in one size only, is better than the $5 tall, dark, and handsome special I can get from one of the classics, $5 or $6. Or the Chocachino, which is arguably like the best specialty drink available out there. And my favorite place for a Chocachino, again, I've plugged it before, is Cafe Rousseau. I think they have a few locations. Go give them the business. Other propaganda I am not falling for. Mid-length anything. A capri, a midi dress, 7/8 or whatever length leggings, 3/4 length sleeves, any measure of a man. Goodbye. Why would I want mid anything in my life? In my personal cinematic universe, I do not have room or time for anything fractional. And most of it just isn't flattering. Especially if you are on the taller side, everything hits at a extremely awkward point, and I hate it. And last on the short list here is measuring somebody's worth by the number of friends that they have. Discernment is so important. Discernment is something that you want in a friend that you have, a quality that someone should possess. The gift of discernment. And I just feel like often a friend to all is kind of a friend to none. And I say often because that is certainly not always the case. I have some friends that have huge friend groups that are wonderful people, but I think, maybe to be more specific, people who value themselves at a certain level based on the amount of friends that they have, that's a sickness. I think that it can be kind of a shallow way to live. I'm just always a quality over quantity person, and I think that you should be discerning about who you trust and who you give your energy and spend your time with. That's just me. And then I'm going to go through propaganda I am falling for kind of quickly here because I do want to get to the ones that you actually answered. And I felt like maybe leaning a little bit more heavily on the propaganda I'm not falling for. So in terms of things I am falling for, the first on my list is the Valley on Bravo. If you haven't seen it, I do not have the brain power or bandwidth to explain, but I guess if you know, you know. I was very skeptical, I will say, because I have not seen a lot of Vanderpump. I was familiar with some of the people involved, but then there were obviously some like new faces on the show. And also on the surface, it did not sound particularly enthralling. You're dealing with like young parents and some other psychopaths living in the valley. Like it sounded kind of boring. It sounded a little beige. And the first season, entertaining. This second season has been just really top tier reality TV. So many crash outs. Some moments I am shocked that they kept in, and just overall, I feel like you don't need to be really deep into the Bravo verse to appreciate it. I'm not necessarily, I'm like very well versed in Summer House, but not so much on the other shows. And I cannot recommend it enough from an entertainment standpoint. And then other propaganda I am falling for is that you should sample perfume before you purchase it. I am a huge fragrance sample collector, and if money were no object, I would be spending a lot more on fragrances, but some people will say it's like a waste of money. It is so much fun. I am falling for fragrance sampling propaganda. And then last but not least, bag charms and fun keychains. I am not going to take a stance on Labubu either way, but I think that we deserve to have a little bit of fun with our bags and our keys. I don't see anything wrong with them. Sparkling water, including obviously LaCroix and the Guy Fieri Waterloo. And as always, aliens. If there is alien propaganda, consider me interested. Microtrending. As promised, we are going to dig into your responses. I got so many answers to propaganda you are either falling for or not. So this would not be possible without you. I sound like PBS right now, but like it warms my heart, and thank you so much. So let's get started. Buying a puppy, and I'm assuming this is instead of adopting, and I'm going to co-sign that I am also hopefully never going to fall for that propaganda. It really shocks me how many like public figure, maybe I shouldn't be shocked, how many like influencers and public figures are just like very clearly purchasing designer dogs when so many shelters are full. And I have a personal stake in this because I have relatives that like work at these shelters and humane societies. You shouldn't be, if you have purchased a puppy, you know what you did. The dog hopefully has a loving home. But there are alternatives. And if you're fostering an animal right now, I love you so much. Okay, next. Anti-Botox rhetoric. I just want to say there are so many answers on either side of this, which just goes to show you how much of a hot button topic this is. But this is truly one of those you do you, your body, your choice situations, in my opinion. I know people feel like very strongly. Either way, my stance as Gabrielle is do what you want to do within safety and within reason to your body to feel good about how you look. This next person said skinny talk, TOK as in TikTok. If you're not familiar with Liv Schmidt in skinny talk, some news outlet covered this recently. There was a creator, Liv Schmidt, who I think was finally demonetized by Meta, but it's a whole can of worms that you should look into if you're interested. This is something that is, I think, would qualify as both peer pressure and propaganda. And it's just like one piece of like a larger issue. I support this person in not falling for that propaganda. Next, whole body deodorant BS. Fuck you, my under boob smells fine. I love this answer. I want to know so badly what the like diabolical greater reason is for the push in whole body deodorant. I think about it maybe like a few times a month. I will think about the trend of whole body deodorant because it's so funny. Just the concept that this is something that has like been pushed on us. And I hope it's not because people are not showering, but I also wouldn't be surprised. Next, using the word woke as an insult. The comedian Niles Abston, who is fucking hilarious, has a fantastic joke about how this word evolved over time and like what it means to actually be woke. It is one of my favorite jokes that I've heard in recent history. I don't know if it's in his upcoming special that is coming out, I think next week, or not. So I'm not going to say anything more. Um, but I agree with you. That's something that we don't need to be doing. Next, butter yellow. So this does show up on the propaganda that I am falling for list as well. We love a contentious color. I think it's really interesting that like I know butter yellow obviously is like evocative of the food butter, right? But like do you remember we used to have a lot more like strawberry milk nails, cinnamon crunch toast hair or whatever, like there were, and they're all led by Hailey Bieber, I think, and like her stylist or whatever. But we used to have those really annoying terms, and I think people like caught on that we were sick of them. Where did they go? I feel like butter yellow is that's the only one that I've heard recently. This one is so funny to me. Gold leaf on food makes it tastier. That is quote unquote propaganda that I don't think about very often. It's not something that you also encounter very often, but people do pay for. So perhaps it is propaganda that you should look out for. It's probably not going to be worth the upcharge. In the fashion realm, bubble hem shirts, in parentheses, peplum tops. I thought this was like the bubble skirts at first when I read that, and that's also propaganda that we do not need to be falling for. Those bubble skirts, very hard to pull. I mean, again, wear it if you want. Very hard to pull off. Peplum tops or bubble hem shirts are also a sartorial challenge. Fashion that's hard to pull off. And then also long denim shorts. What did I say about like a mid-length article of clothing? I on my list of propaganda I am not falling for. I was going to put shorts or like non-athletic shorts. So I very much agree. Long denim shorts, you're chopped. Eating mushrooms. I feel like it depends on which kind. Next, I'm working to be fulfilled in life. People who say that need to touch grass. I think when we're talking about like corporate work, like being part of like something greater is like super fulfilling and like you should feel grateful for having that kind of job. I think that's bullshit. And I do understand that people are fulfilled in different ways by different occupations, but I feel like it is a little bit of a capitalist brainworm that I think really takes away from us fully enjoying our lives. I think interacting with other people and helping other people can help you feel fulfilled in your life. It just doesn't have to be in like an open concept office for you to feel fulfilled 8 hours a day plus. Next is the Red Scare Pod. Could not agree more. Stay the fuck away. On a similar note, Joe Rogan and Theo Vaughn, my family has been abducted by them. I'm personally bummed, I have to say, that Theo Vaughn politically is who he is. And I'm not surprised. Like, I'm not an idiot. I have just enjoyed his comedy and have enjoyed his podcast so much in the past. And then I think like having Trump and like, again, it makes me feel so dumb because of course he's going to play both sides. Joe Rogan, I think, has done stuff that's arguably a bit more dangerous in terms of pushing specific rhetoric, but they are both part of the problem. So I do have complicated feelings about the legacy of Theo Vaughn, but I feel like them together and the Kill Tony situation, kind of like the Austin cohort of comedians slash podcasters, that's something to pay attention to in terms of propaganda. I don't want to like negate how dangerous that actually has become. Um and but I will also say that slash it disappoints me. Like it makes me sad that it's like attached to the comedy world at all. So I hear you very much on that. Next, influencer merch. Those park sweatshirts, do not get me started. Celebrity brands, divine femininity, and Stanley cups. This is all one answer. Some of the ones that are like lists of things are so funny to me because absolutely. Kind of in a similar vein, the concept of a soft life, that is such a loaded thing. That is something maybe worth talking about a little bit more in depth at another time. But like what soft life I feel it kind of started out as a concept, and then like the wheels kind of fell off, and like what it became was just so regressive. um yeah, there's definitely like propaganda in that space for sure. um and again, slightly related, marriage and kids, that propaganda has always existed, but it really does feel like it has come back. I mean, including Trump like saying he's going to give like some sort of like bonus to new moms, and we know exactly the new moms he would offer that to. There is a lot of that like traditional family values propaganda that is rearing its head again. Should not be surprising. And it's something again that like I have slightly complex feelings on, because I do want and hope for those things, but at the same time, like the propaganda around it frustrates me because that should not be the only option for women and for anyone on this earth. We contain multitudes, and we don't have to produce multitudes if we choose not to, or marry a man that does not contain multitudes. Let us have the choice. AI as a whole, it's going to be the end of us all. I've seen The Matrix and know how this goes. Well, I don't think you have to have seen The Matrix, although I'm sure that it does help. I have already gone off on AI, probably on here before, but definitely in videos. But it is something that I am like faced with all the time as something that is literally coming for my job. They are expecting us to like essentially train it to replace the work that we are doing as writers, as creatives. And it's something that makes me so mentally and physically depressed and ill that I'm not going to get into it again in too much detail here, but I really hope that people understand that relying on ChatGPT for like little things is actually a very serious slippery slope toward way worse stuff. And then a few more here of propaganda that you are not falling for. Dubai chocolate. Dubai anything really so funny to me. I have not had the viral Dubai chocolate, the Dubai candy bar, because I have a minor nut allergy, which sounds so silly, but it just, if I eat nuts, it makes my mouth feel either itchy or like a razor blade has cut it up. It has something to do with the pollen. I've been told I am a rather allergic person, so I'm literally afraid. I fear Dubai chocolate, but I'm sure it tastes delicious. However, the marketing, the Dubai chocolate propaganda has been insane. And I don't want to speak on Dubai as a whole, but my favorite Dubai export by far has to be Luffy, the paraplegic dog, at the Sahara Kennel Rescue in Dubai. I hope that Luffy is enjoying his new life as an adopted dog. Anyway, beef tallow, Pilates, capris. What did I tell you? Performative earrings on straight men, calling everything for a literal season a trend and that you have to get it. So cringe. That's why we're here. Wellness trash. That fuck ass Goyard bag. Here's the deal. I have always loved the Goyard bag. However, I am rethinking. I'm not going to say that I will never get one, but seeing it paraded by Mom Talk on that Mormon Wives show, it does make me reconsider. Like, I like how it looks, but I think that propaganda, if we want to call it that, is again making me reconsider. Benson Boone, yup. Chiropractors, absolutely. Marvel movies / any media that mentions or glorifies the military. Thank you for this answer. This pisses me off so much, and it really, it's more than you think is out there. It's become so normalized. Something to pay attention to. Individualism. This one has a lot of layers, but I agree. And someone also wrote American exceptionalism, and I think those two things combined, really, like, it's worth, along with like the Marvel military propaganda, it's like really worth considering and like looking out for how much of that there is. Superfoods, TikTok shop, dessert hummus, haven't tried, sounds disgusting. Protein popcorn, dating apps, Klarna. I do like Klarna sometimes, I have to say. The return to hardline, no fun, miserable Puritanism, aka Operation Beige. Exactly. Matching your socks. That is also like, who cares? Let us mismatch socks. Greens powders. Adaptogens. Another vote for protein. It's so funny that like protein, that there's like big protein and like protein propaganda now. Completely agree. And this is coming from someone that absolutely does need to eat more protein because I don't like most protein sources. I make myself a protein smoothie every morning for that reason.
Microtrending.
Last but not least, we have propaganda that you are falling for. First up, AI will replace my job. There is propaganda on both sides for AI, right? You have like AI is going to like be end times, it's going to take your job, and then you have like AI is the future. You have no say in like, its growth, and it's gonna take us to Mars, it's gonna take us to the moon or whatever. And I think that the propaganda about AI is being trained to replace us, as I mentioned, I'm seeing this literally happen in my workplace That's propaganda that I believe. Anything full on vibrant color. Absolutely. I'm not saying that you can't wear beige, and who am I to tell you what to wear or not wear, but we should be embracing color, I think, as much as possible, given the circumstances. Also, it's about to be summer. You do not need to wear beige outside. This next person said Olipop. I am on the Ollie propaganda train, so no worries there. Butter yellow from the Operation Beige color palette. I think that yellow, yes, it is like kind of on like the beige spectrum, but I think that butter yellow is very flattering on a lot of skin tones that like wear the butter yellow. I am a fan of the color. Somebody else said the color yellow as well. I jokingly said that like this summer was going to be Bart summer, like Bart Simpson instead of Brat. And I feel like that could still happen if we are embracing yellow. Fur babies instead of human babies. Nothing wrong with that. Buying yourself ice cream every time it's hot out. Pit stop RuPaul's Drag Race recaps. I have not seen these. I have to admit I have kind of a blind spot when it comes to Drag Race. But I trust you. Running marathons. There are votes for marathons on either side of this, and I don't think that these people will probably ever see eye to eye. It's not something that I would ever do, but if you are running one, I support you. Walking, eating fruit, girl dinner as a feminist act. Love that. Health at any size. Actually touching grass. It is therapeutic. I do support that. Everything is political, therapy, and little treats. Fantastic list. Hosier, in parentheses, I am not immune to Irishmen with rich voices, poetic souls, and luscious locks. You know what? I like that he's tall. We were talking about like full length measurements before. Um, I like some of his music. I am not going to ever be part of the Hosier hate train. And if Hosier is your propaganda, I support you. Yellow Gatorade is the best Gatorade. I don't think I've ever really thought long and hard about Gatorade tiers. Um, but perhaps the moon. I love this answer. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Iced coffee. You're in good company. John Mulaney, another contentious figure. Despite certain things, I am always going to be, I think, on the John Mulaney side of things. Summer House versus Southern Charm cast beef is 100% a recession indicator. Uh, that's a possibility. I have only seen a few recent seasons of Southern Charm. I do not know the lore of that show, but what has happened recently, perhaps a recession indicator. Also in the Bravoverse, John Mayer and Andy Cohen are in love. There are so many blind items about their friendship, and they might just be friends. They might be roommates. I'm not going to speculate further, but John Mayer has said some horrible things. Um and I get bad vibes from him, so he specifically is on my shit list. I am not here for the pro John Mayer propaganda. Somebody said saltlacroix. I do not. You should not fall for the saltlacroix propaganda. Don't do it. But if you're going to, thank you for listening, and please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much. Seriously, thank you. Needing a little treat, lip filler. the return of skinny jeans, Addison Rae is an amazing pop star, fiber, healthy takeout, love always wins, boycotts work, and the stock market. Another vote for Addison Rae, specifically Diet Pepsi, Find My Friends, expensive candles. I am all about expensive candles and affordable candles. 30-minute morning walk. I love all these votes for walking. I am very pro walking as exercise. Gentrified gruel for breakfast. Sunscreen. Love to see it. Matcha. The healing power of a croissant and a cold brew. I am like excited for tomorrow morning just reading that. There is something so soulful, something, the healing power of cold brew and croissant. This has been a very pro coffee podcast. And if you drink matcha, that's fine too. Slugging, whole milk. We're going to disagree there, but you do you. $9 matcha latte. That is absolutely propaganda, but a lot of them, I understand they are very tasty. You do you. And Tapatio Doritos, which I have not tried, but I do like both of those things independently. So perhaps those are delicious. I will have to see. Well, that is all the propaganda we have time for today. As in Operation Beige, as in life, the most important thing you can do is think for yourself. Honestly, I feel like that's the real takeaway here. But I was inspired by some of your propaganda that you were not falling for. So thank you for sharing your responses. Also, thank you so much for listening, for sharing, for liking, for subscribing, wherever you are watching or listening, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Really means a lot. And as always, you can DM me or email me at saltlacroix@gmail.com if there are any microtrend topics that you would like inspected a little bit further or discussed. And yeah, stay safe out there and don't fall for any more propaganda. You're welcome and hope this helped, and I'll see you soon.
Microtrending.